We're going to get started today. I'm going to show off all our team members first. Everyone's going to give a wave. So first we have Dmitry. Give a wave, Dmitry. We also have Dave Berenbaum. He's with us. Peter Rollins is here. And Saga Pachai, as well as Powell. And Ruslan is with us today to help answer all your questions. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dmitry, and he's going to give us an intro before we get started.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining, and it's great to see everyone. I see a lot of new faces and some people who we already know. For example, I see Vera, who was contributor number 100. As far as oh yeah, here we go. This is the prize. She was contributor number 100 in DVC. And also Gao is here, and some other folks I can recognize, and a lot of new people. So let's talk about DVC and DVC 2.0. We released DVC 2.0 2 weeks ago. It was a big step for us. It took like 8 months for developing the new release. As usual, the new functionality is based on feedback from users. So basically from you, who give us feedback, who use DVC and ask for new features. And this is how we come up with the roadmap with the functionality for 2.0. So making like one step back, DVC, it's almost 4 years old project. So we started it like 4 years ago as a kind of a pet project, and now it's DVC is an essential part in many companies, and hundreds of companies are using DVC today, and thousands of people. The idea behind DVC was quite simple. So we need to bring this new functionality of like kind of AI platforms, if you wish, to people. And one of the big differentiators of DVC and what makes DVC different is we think that ML engineers, researchers, and data scientists, they're kind of more engineers, and they still work on code base, on code. They still collaborate a lot on Git and GitHub and all the Git ecosystem because of the nature of ML projects. And this is why we build DVC on top of Git. Right, DVC like codifies your workflow, codifies your data, and put the meta information into Git. So that's what's the initial idea, and we're still kind of pursuing this path. It works really well for many of ML scenarios. So DVC 2.0, we have 4 major features in DVC 2.0. One, the first one is advanced pipelines. Pipelines were from the very beginning in the DVC, and a lot of people use the pipelines, especially in scenarios like NLP, when transformation, like with many steps of transformations, and some other scenarios. With a pipeline, we introduce a lot of new functionality like variables, loops, kind of templates for steps in a pipeline. And we found a way how to connect your variables in pipeline with your config files with parameters. And Saugat mostly was driving this pipeline initiative. Okay, Saugat. And then what we also found that DVC works really great on collaboration level, on the team collaboration level. When someone have done 100 experiments, he or she found like one or maybe like couple of good models and willing to share these models. Then Git flow and DVC flow works really well for this functionality. However, on experimentation phase, people are struggling with like running all the Git commands for like each single experiment, especially when you run like hundreds, dozens of experiments each single day. So we introduce experiments, DVC experiments, when in a one single command, DVC can like capture everything and keep track of your hundreds of experiments on your local machine. And then when you are ready, you can share part of those or every single experiment. This is the second functionality. And then checkpoints. Today, many teams use deep learning And checkpoints, it's one of the best practices in this world of deep learning. DVC now supports checkpoints natively, so you can train your models and get all the intermediate result, all the checkpoints models in your history. And the last step, but it's probably the most exciting one and most visual one, is a DVC Live project, and DVC Live and plots. So kind of like logging functionality. In deep learning, it is especially about deep learning. In deep learning, you need to track progress of your training, and we introduce this functionality into DVC. So with DVC, you can track this training process and then preserve this in a history. So Pavel was mostly driving the DVC Live and Live metrics, and Peter mostly was driving the experiments part that I was talking before. And also, what is new in the team, now we have a new the first project manager in the team, Dave. He was helping with like literally everything in the DVC 2.0 release. And one fun part about Dave, he was also a contributor in DVC. About like a year, maybe a year and a half ago, he contributed some security patches for like S3 related stuff to the DVC core base. So yeah, congratulations everyone with the new release, and eager to hear your feedback and your thoughts and your ideas about DVC 2.0. And we need to finalize the roadmap for DVC 3.0 for the next step. And it's very important to hear you, to stay connected with you and understand what we need to focus on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dmitry.
It was one question from Vera.
Okay.
Will you do a demo? Yeah.
Yeah. And we have one from Alexandre, nothing to do with a new feature, but is there a way to clean up the cache in a smart way?
And you played with like the GC feature, so there's ways to sort of clean up things, and there are different flags for like only keeping the things that are in a commit, for example. So you should be able to at least like keep your commit history. But I don't know, I guess if there's more specifics of like what you mean by smart, or like something that you're struggling with, we could probably answer it more specifically.
Thank you all for the meetup. So my question was more about, we have tons of data scientists working together, thanks to DVC. I mean, we want to have, right now we don't have. And the idea is the cache is growing up and up and up because we are doing tons of experiments. But at the end, the only experiments that matter is the ones that will push into the main branch and that will be in production, right? So the idea is to be able to remove all the experiments from the cache except the ones that we are pushing to production, for example.
Yeah.
So is there a way, because I know, for example, Git at the very beginning was struggling with that. And then there was the graphical interface that came in, like Kraken, all this stuff that help you to really understand what's going on and remove some branches that you find useless or whatever. So is there any tool like that right now for DVC, or do we need to tag specific commits that we want to keep?
So you're asking like two questions, right? One is like how to keep the commit, right? And second is like how to visualize your history, right? Yeah. So to answer the second question about the UI part, yes, we are working on UI, and we are actually have like two projects related to UI. One is more focused on collaboration and business scenario. It's about our SaaS product. We will be as a company launching. And second project for UI, it's mostly about data scientist experience. That's kind of using like open source approach, open approach. We will give UI a bit later this year. And yes, we will have UIs in different ways, in team collaboration way and data scientist focused way. Regarding the GC, right, and the garbage collecting all the experiments, we have some flags on the GC commands and new experiments commands, and we support some of the scenario, but unfortunately not like every single scenario that people have in mind. And this is like why important to have like this feedback from users, like what kind of scenario you have in mind, and what you'd like to see in the DVC. You mentioned like one commit. Yeah, so this might be a good feature request for the future releases, and it will be great to discuss a bit more, try to like generalize this and introduce in the DVC.
But Alexandre, are you saying that you want to keep one commit or get rid of one commit? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
So I want to keep a bunch of commits that are the commit of the model that were trained and that are in production. All the rest of the other experiment or other commits,
Yeah.
I want to get rid of them because they take space for no reason or almost no reason.
Gotcha. Yeah. So usually those important commits are marked as a branch or as a tag, right? So we have those flags to preserve, to keep all of the tags or all of the branches or both, and get rid of everything else. That's a pretty basic use case. It already works. You can give it a try. I'm not sure if you did. There are more with GC. There are more features that are coming. We have actually a big thread about GC reconsideration, like with the new algorithms, maybe like less recently used and stuff like that. But yeah, we will probably get to it in the upcoming months to improve that experience some more. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your answer. I will deep dive
I'll
into
post
it.
a link. Yeah.
And okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we had, do we want to go into, we had a question about checkpoints.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of questions. So maybe we should start with like them, like one by one, and then answer questions down the road.
Yeah. My question is like that. If I think you guys used Bottle3, right?
Sorry, what was that?
Did you use Bottle3 to communicate with S3?
I don't know, Ruslan. Do we have Boto3? But yeah, I'm familiar. I think we're familiar with Boto3. So
we use Boto3. We currently use it to communicate with S3. We're also migrating to S3FS, which is an FS spec based implementation from Dusk guys that we will start using in the upcoming weeks. But still, yeah. In any case, we use Boto in some sense internally.
Okay. My question is, if I want to use the HDFS as a data source, as a remote data source, but I have to need to pull the data over the command line. Like I have to add the remote source, like DBC remote add. Then I have to push or pull from the dataset or data source. But is there any plan to deploy a solution like Botto3? If I use Botto3 in my source file or in a module, I can communicate like as a modular. So did you got my question?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Is there any plan like Botto3 services or Botto3 tool to deploy in DVC?
I'm not sure I quite understand what it means. Let me rephrase it. Huh?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Could you please explain? Like, are you trying to? Are you reading data directly from your code, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you are reading data directly from your code, and you'd like to kind of still version your data source, right? That you are reading from. Yeah. Today we have the concept of dependencies, external dependencies. When you can specify, like, I do depend my this step depends on that particular external file. It might be like S3 file or like HTTP, FTP source. And then, yeah, DVC will track the fact that file didn't change, and DVC can recognize file change and redo your step. So the answer is yes. You need to look at the external dependency functionality.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Are you specifically looking for like a Python API to do this rather than like I
think DVC introduced a Python API, but I am more interested, as I used in my day-to-day work Moto3 heavily. So I like to have a tool like Moto3. So that could be convenient for us. That's it.
I think you'll still need to use some API that's specific to like the cloud storage backend you want. So like for HDFS, like there's Pyro. I don't know if you looked into that. So like that's what we use under the hood for talking to HDFS remotes in DVC. But so Pyro is like the Python library, like with Moto3, that is used for talking to HDFS. So I think that might be more what you're looking for here.
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Porimol. That was awesome. Okay, I'm gonna call on Gennaro Tedesco now. He has a question about checkpoints.
I'm going to use this sample repo that we have available on our GitHub, and this is just an MNIST example. So for anyone who's not familiar, MNIST is like a very standard deep learning example where it's just images of digits from 0 to 9, and you're trying to predict the digit. So so this is just a very basic sort of like hello world for deep learning here. And we have a basic convolutional neural net here. You can check this out later and play around with it if you want to. So let me just familiarize everybody with kind of the repo that we have here, and then we'll walk it through how we can use checkpoints on this. So we basically just have one script here. We have a model training script, and if we just scroll all the way down to the main function here, we just load our neural network, load any existing model weights, load the data, and then we iterate over our model epochs. And actually, hold on, I want to start on our basic branch here. Start with kind of the most basic example here. So here we're not even looping over epochs, but we're just going to run a single epoch, and we'll just train the model, save the model, and then evaluate it. So just a very simple model training script. And then for DVC, you'll need dvc.yaml to define your stages. You see the only thing that we have different here from normal, so we have our stage defined. We only have a single stage. It's just running that training script. That's the only dependency. The only output is the model file. And the only thing that we had to do here differently is just add checkpoint true for this model output. And then we have some metrics as well. So let me go actually do a little code demo on this, and I can show you all how this would work. So we're in this repo already, I believe. We're on this basic branch. So let's go ahead and run this. So you want to use, if you're using checkpoints, you just need to use the dvc exp run command instead of dvc repro, because repro doesn't know how to handle these checkpoint outputs. The point of a checkpoint output is going to be, once you've said checkpoints true in that dvc.yaml file, that's going to mean that instead of completely rerunning the stage from scratch every time you run it, we're going to keep the existing checkpoint outputs as a starting point. So that way you can load your model weights and build on top of those as you go, instead of starting from scratch as a normal repro stage would do. So so you need to just kind of get familiar with that experiments interface. You have experiment run and experiment show are probably the most important commands. And so you'll see after the run completes, now you can do dvc exp show, and it's going to show you, okay, we've run this once, and this is our accuracy that we defined in our metrics. So the difference now is since we've defined that as a checkpoint, if we run DVC X run again, then it's going to just build on top of that last checkpoint and continue building from that point. So we'll have the model that was an output from the first run as an input to this second run. And so now if we do our DVC EXP show again, we'll see that it's building on top. We're improving our accuracy. It's keeping each of those checkpoints. So you can actually go back and use the experiments commands to go navigate to any of the revisions from the previous checkpoints that you want to see. Now that's pretty basic because, as I said, we're not even like looping over the epochs in that case. So let me actually go to another branch and show you like how you can maybe make this work in a more typical workflow. So I'm switching over to this make checkpoint branch, and let me show you how this differs from the code that we were just looking at. So now instead of, so now we need to import this make checkpoint function. So I guess, first of all, I think something that we're still working on the documentation of this a little bit. I think the point of showing that basic example is all you really need to start working with checkpoints is just to put that checkpoint true line in your dvc.yaml and everything should work. Now, if you want to have it integrated into like a loop over different training epochs where your script is creating checkpoints as it executes, and you don't need to run DVC exp run every time, then you'll want to use this make checkpoint function. So you'll need to import that at the top, and now all you need to do is just put your exact same training steps into a for loop, and at the end of that for loop, you just want to have a make check. You want to call that make checkpoint function. That's going to do the same thing as if you were running DVC exp run on each of those iterations of the loop. So let's go ahead and try that. And this, if you saw, it's by default going to try and run for 10 epochs. You can also like hit Control-C whenever, interrupt it. It'll save all the checkpoints up to that point for you and just exit out. So, you don't necessarily need to define a set number of epochs that you want to run. You could just keep it running indefinitely, and then hit Control-C whenever you've hit a point that you're happy with. Yeah, so you can do it any way you want. You can, choose every X number of epochs you want to create a checkpoint. So whatever kind of works best for your workflow there. And let's see, we've got a few checkpoints here. So let me go ahead and I'll hit Control-C now, and we can take a look at what we've got.
Gennaro's got a question, Dave.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I can ask the question once you finish the demo.
Okay.
I just wanted to book one.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. Let me I think we'll let me just show you this, and then you can follow up with me once. Yeah, I think this is actually probably a good stopping point. Let me just show that you can see how kind of the checkpoints get organized here. That now you've got like 4 checkpoints that were all from that that loop in the script that I just showed. So you can continue. If you run this again, it'll continue building off of that. And you can also sort of reset if you need to. You can go back, and DVC is kind of saving all the checkpoints for you as you go. So yeah, go ahead.
So in the case at hand, in the example that you are constructing, you are using PyTorch, where you construct a simple network and you manually iterate over a for loop somehow. In each step of the for loop, the metrics are being evaluated, and according to some conditions, this is being output into a checkpoint. Now, I wonder, there are a lot of other Python utils for, in general, machine learning, for example, scikit or some other neural networks engines, where you don't manually have to construct the for loop. So you don't really have manual access to the metrics in each iteration. And I was wondering if it is possible to integrate this checkout into, for example, cross-validation objects or constructors, or in general, in a broader Python ecosystem.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if I should, maybe I'll go ahead and show the one other thing I was going to show is how this integrates with the new DVC Live feature that that Dmitry mentioned. And that kind of is where we've started to look into building those integrations, and might be an easier way, actually, once you get used to it, to kind of take advantage of checkpoints. And so let me show that, and then we can maybe come back to the specific question. So let me go ahead and check out the live branch here. And we'll take a look. And this is still, DVC Live is still very much like experimental. So this stuff may change a bit as we continue to develop it. But let me show you the difference from, we were on the make checkpoint branch. So if we see the difference now, so just instead of using that make checkpoint function, now we're instead importing DVC Live. And one thing that you get with DVC Live is it's going to log the metrics for you. So you no longer have to do this like boilerplate JSON dump of your metrics. Instead, you just use the DVC Live.log function to log the metrics. And then the DVC Live.nextStep function is basically taking the place of the make checkpoint function that you had before. So that's how your code looks different. You also need to change your DVC YAML. So let's see how that looks different. So again, you don't need the metrics here because those are going to be tracked directly by DVC Live. So instead, you would have a live section. And so what this means is we're using DVC Live. We're going to want the DVC Live logs to get written out to a directory called logs. And here we want it to include a summary, which is basically the equivalent of the metrics file that we had before, and an HTML report, which is going to be similar to like DVC plots, except that it's going to get updated in real time. So if you want to, as Dmitry said before, like if you're running a longer running process, you know, in a toy example, it's probably not going to look as cool, but if you had a longer running process and you want to track the progress as you're going, you can do that through this. So yeah, we can try and run that one more time just to show you what I mean, and then I'll address how this helps with your question. So as
I can add to this.
Yeah.
Regarding the integration, so they show you DVC Live, right, and how to work with metrics, but also we have integration with the libraries, for example, like or some others. When you don't need to do this like manually, you just set up a callback. So that's pretty much it. And the callback takes care about the rest, the metrics. So it basically dumps like all the metrics that your framework is using in the training loop, and it dumps the checkpoints. So maybe Pyle can say like can talk about like what kind of framework we do support today. Pyle, can you?
Yeah, so currently we have yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so currently we have support for Keras and for XGBoost, because those are like the libraries that have, let's say, they are quite easily extendable, their callbacks. We have been researching the subject for the scikit-learn integrations, but I guess the main problem is that usually when you have to kind of let's say training methods. In case of scikit, one is fit and another one is fit partial. And when you are using fit, the API does not allow any kind of a callbacks. So in this case, it's quite hard to introduce your, let's say, custom code and some integration into your training code. In case of fit partial, you will probably be using it in a way that they've showed, in a similar way that they've showed for the PyTorch. I seen the comments that Vera wrote something about extending the validators. I haven't got to validators, but if you guys have an idea for like an integration with scikit via those validators, we would be really glad to hear that, because well, we are not experts in the. If you have some more experience and have some idea how we could extend DVC Live functionality, we would be glad to hear that.
Yep. Like Dave mentioned, it's kind of like experimental step for us, right, to do to this direction. And this is why we just like implemented just a couple steps just to try on the concept level. And now we need to go deeper to the other libraries and extend the other libraries.
Yeah, so, and it's, I guess I should also mention, like, I think if you look at the docs here that I have up, like you'll see it's, if there is a, if you have, you know, if you're using Keras, you have something that has a callback function that you can insert, then, you know, this example, like the Keras one is already built in, but Pavel also shows here how you can pretty much write one yourself pretty straightforwardly. So yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. But as Pavel mentioned, like if you have ideas for integrations, I think we're definitely like looking for that feedback. And, you know, we don't want to dive too deep into how to integrate it into each individual framework until we get some more feedback, basically.
We should probably ask for feedback right now.
Yeah,
exactly. Guys, what do you use? What do you use? What kind of libraries? And if you can like mention your library, it might help us to prioritize the next step.
My initial idea was to integrate it with scikit estimators that don't expose direct callbacks. So this is the difference between Keras and scikit. In Keras, you have callbacks that are directly exposed, so you can hook onto them. And another use case could be any other third-party library or language that still wants to use DVC to it. So for Python, we have PyTorch and Keras that are really nice and tidy, so you can do more or less whatever you want. But there may be some other machine learning frameworks that don't expose all those functionalities. But I perfectly understand that, for example, this is just an initial release. So already having these functionalities for Keras and PyTorch is a very, very big step. So this is very much appreciated.
Yep, thank you. One more important part about this checkpoints and experiments and the library that we provide. So the way that we build the experiments and checkpoints, it's actually language independent. We just implemented like Python library, but in the same way we can implement library for any other language, for like R, for Julia, like from your C++ code, you can do checkpoints. You just need to like follow some protocol that we introduced. This is one very important part of DVC, to be language agnostic.
Very well.
Awesome. Good discussion.
The question was about describe my DAG, not in YAML, but as a code like Airflow and other described framework.
Right. So it's about like how to construct a DAG from Python code, not YAML.
From, for example, Python code, yes.
Yeah. Because on a YAML, right, you can specify. In this way, DVC does kind of codify your DAG in a YAML file, right? This is like current state, but for the APIs, is it?
Yeah.
For Python APIs, is it correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Saugat can answer this question. This is we were talking a lot about this functionality, how to generate graphs from Python. Saugat, or you'd like me to answer the question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have been discussing about this for, I guess, a long time. DVC wants to be language agnostic, right? So introducing Python APIs. So I guess introducing Python APIs is come in two flavors probably. As a workflow engine, right? Or the one that you can run, like for example, Dexter. I guess. But DVC wants to be language agnostic, so we have been discussing about that, but we haven't made any decisions yet, I guess, on this one. Yeah. There's an open issue somewhere. I guess I will just drop it in the chat.
Yeah, please share, and if someone likes this approach, you can at least vote or provide some comment. And we are talking about this quite a long time, and there is a feeling that we need to introduce some Python APIs, just because some people prefer to work with purely from Python, and we still need to like to be language agnostic. So this is kind of like this is the dilemma that we have. My personal feeling is, yes, we will introduce some APIs in the future. It might be like DVC 3.0. It might be a bit later. I hope sooner. But yeah, that's one of the directions we are kind of talking and discussing quite a lot in the context of pipelines and the next direction of the pipelines. Because right now we are planning DVC through 3.0. What we need to do for pipelines, we have like a few ideas in mind, and this Python API is one of those. So today the question is like what we should prioritize. So if you can provide some feedback, comment on the issue, it will be really helpful. Or just like upvote.
And I'll be putting a feedback form into the chat too. I'll do that now. But we would love to get your feedback. And also it's like a sign up for swag form. So if you want any DVC swag, you'll be able to do that through that form. I'll put it out in a couple minutes. We have a question that would be good probably. I think it's been a little bit answered inside the chat, but from D about automatic dependency discovery for source code files. Dee, did you want to talk about that? It'd be good to have it like open to everybody so that we have it recorded.
Well, maybe Dee will join, but as far as I understand from exchanging the messages, the question was if we are specifying the Python script file that contains some kind of an imports, that it would be good to resolve the imports included in the script file and well, include them as a dependencies of a particular stage. If I got it right, if you could confirm.
Yeah, so it's my understanding is it's about like source code only, right? Yeah. For source code only, yeah, it's we also have some issue regarding this, like how to track these dependencies properly in a Python code, for example, because you don't want to probably specify all the file dependencies, right? You might have like many of those, and in a very like granular way. I do depend on this like directory, but not from the entire code base, but only from those 7 files, and it's easy to make a mistake. So it's kind of a pretty clear problem. And we are discussing this today. We haven't started implementing this part, but it's pretty clear that it might be one of the good features for the following releases. And if you have some ideas of how to implement this, it will be really helpful. Because last time when we brainstormed like how to implement this, we come up with some solutions, but we didn't find a good kind of a perfect solution, the solution we really like. And if you have some ideas on how to do this properly, so it will be really amazing.
Jose, are you here? Would you like to ask that question?
Hi, sure. You can hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, no, I just wanted to ask because we just started to use DVC recently. We started to see different options, right? So we found DVC and also some other tools like MLFlow. And basically, we have found some things on DVC that we couldn't find in MLFlow. But I just want to ask, but you already answered that you already have planned to do some UI projects. I just wanted to ask if you have some, I don't know, like ideas or projects related to do more stuff related to putting in production the models. That it's something that I think MLFlow do it in a really good way. And also, if you see that there are some synergies between both tools in order to work together. We consider that both tools are very useful working together, but I would like to know your vision and what are the plans according to the UX, UI, and also the tools or database, for example, that MLFlow have for tracking the experiments.
Yep. Yeah, so this is really good kind of intuition, right? MLFlow, it's like one good for one set of scenarios and DVC for another set of scenarios. In the past year, we found a lot of teams use DVC and MLFlow together. Like MLFlow, like Neptune AI, Weight and Biases, all like ML tracking tools, just because they solve different problems. And what we also found that the loggers like MLFlow, they're very great on level of your experiments on individuals level. When you do like hundreds of experiments, put everything into database, and they're not so good on the collaboration level. When you need to introduce your files, your result of your experiments to the team, because the team might have like a few team members, each one produces like 100 experiments a day. It becomes like not easy to kind of navigate on those variety of experiments. It becomes like challenge to track of this. While DVC is on an opposite spectrum. It's great for like introducing your result of your work for the team, when team can see like 2 of your best experiments, but they don't see the rest. And we are thinking a lot like what we should do about this. What is the best way to integrate? And what we found, it's not easy to integrate because we kind of live in a different paradigm in terms of like how do we track experiments. And what we decide to do is, all right, if you are fine with those kind of differences, then you just use both and it's fine. And also we introduce this DVC Live metrics logging functionality, when you can log those metrics and have those plots with DVC, and you can put all these logs to your Git repository or data repository, data remote in DVC. And so you can kind of have the same functionality, but not in a centralized way when you put data to database, but in decentralized way, when your data lives in your Git repository or metadata in Git repository and actual plot in the storage. It's kind of like a distributed MLFlow, if you wish. This is how you can see the new DVC Live functionality. And yeah, UI, it's today you can generate plots, just like literally like HTML file with Vega plots, and when you can see them. But the UI is coming. It's separate project. And by the way, it was a question from Nik123, as far as I remember. He was asking about way to store these files, metrics, right? Nik123, Nikita, as far as I remember his name. Can you explain the question? So as far as I understood the question, Nick, if you online, you can clarify this. And so as far as I understand the question, when you generate those files for plots with your metrics in DVC Live, do you supposed to put those files into Git or not Git? So in DVC, it's a usual kind of a usual approach, generalized approach. Yes, you can put files into Git, and some files are reasonably small and they're fine to have everything in a Git in one place. Or you can make it a data file. For example, sometimes you train for like 200 epochs and you track like 20 metrics. Probably you don't want to have these files in the Git. So you specify this as a data file, and you track this as a data file, and DVC keeps track only on kind of like a pointer, right, to your like S3 bucket or Azure or any other storage. So yeah, and getting back to the MLFlow, right? In MLFlow, there is a database in DVC. You can track those plots in your Git or data remote in a kind of distributed way.
Did that answer your question, Nick? He was having problems with his mic. Yep, he's good. All right. Well, we've got a few more minutes if anybody has any more questions, but I think we've gone over a lot. Thank you so much for your questions today. It was awesome. Does anybody from the team want to share anything else in relation to any of the questions today?
We have one more demo, actually, two more demos. Okay. Vera has. Hello?
There I should be. Sorry, I was asking if there is a way now to add some artifacts like plots to metrics?
Artifacts like plot. Could you please? I'm not sure I understood.
I was stuck on MLFlow because my team needed some plots which each metric so we can track them, and MLFlow accept binary artifacts over the metrics. Is there a way to do that in DVC now?
Yeah. So,
Dave, go ahead.
You want to know if you can save your binary artifacts. So generally, like DVC, I guess, is focused more on you saving the data underlying those artifacts, right? So if you will be tracking your plots, and that will save like the CSV that will generate, then I guess it gives you more flexibility would be one way to think of it. And obviously, like, it's more natural way to track with tools like Git if you have a non-binary data that you're trying to track. Now there's nothing that prevents you from, I suppose, like generating a binary artifact, but I don't know that that's I guess the idea is like you have the DVC plots commands that you can easily generate the plot on top of that. But I guess, are you asking more about sort of custom made plots that you're generating? Right. That's a great question. I don't know, Dmitry, do you have thoughts on that?
Now I understand the question. Sorry, didn't get from us first initially. So you're talking about the plots when you'd like to create like a JPEG file, right, or PNG file, not like DVC plots. In this way, yes, you can do this as a kind of a binary, right, as a DVC output. But it won't be, unfortunately, like DVC like a plot. Why it won't? Because DVC plot has kind of a special. DVC plot has some ideas behind it. DVC plots can try to abstract out your plot data from plot visuals, right? In DVC plots, you're supposed to have like TSV file with the data and with no visuals, and plus template that visualizes this data, right? When you run DVC show. Why it's needed for DVC? Because when you'd like to see the plot, it doesn't matter, right? You can have like data plus template and combine it together to visuals, or you can just have like a PNG file and open the file, right? No problem. Why plots are kind of preferable if you use DVC? Because you can do like diffs between the branches, between commits and any other time and history of your repository. You can say DVC plot diff current with master with production 3.1, right? And then you will see the plot with all the three graphs on it, right? So this is why you might need DVC plots, but not like PNG file, because in PNG file you cannot do this magic of combining like different plots.
But my need is to, I know if my data could be structured, of course I will have it structured, but sometimes in computer vision, you need to do some heat map over the frame. And you cannot do that in a structured way.
Yeah, I think Pavel is the best person to answer this question, or I can take it.
So the plots have been created with like a mission of comparing the different metrics, right? Or continuous metrics, or some kind of a, well, let's say standardized plots like, I don't know, confusion matrix. We haven't yet thought about including a type of visualization that you are mentioning, like, for example, generating heat map for some subsets of your data. And well, I guess it might be a good idea to spark a discussion how we could support that, because well, currently we have been operating in a let's say world of metrics, right? We have some metrics and we have some model and we have some way to measure its performance. And the main idea was to let users visualize it in a HTML web page. And we simply haven't been considering the support for the visualization strictly related to your data because there have been no demand. And well, it seems.
But we have template. I think we should mention templates. This is might be a way to solve this problem, right?
Yes, but as far as I understand, Vera has like, for example, generation of heat map from the data that she's using, and well, this is something that we actually would need to research.
But in the binary way, in the artifact way, because maybe I want to do like a heat map of the first layer of a neural network, one for the second one, or maybe with the top mist and the top fit, which places are looking. It should be an artifact.
Artifact, you mean like a binary, not okay, yeah. I think the question comes down to the templates. Can we generate the template which can understand those, or we cannot? And I think this is the most, if it's possible to generalize this approach and come up with some template using, like, for example, Vega library, then yeah, it should be possible to do this with a heat maps also. But it's possible that it won't be like easy to do. This is kind of one risk here. It will be great just to follow up and talk about this after the meeting. If you can provide like examples of your plots and examples of data that you use for generating the plots, then yeah, let's try to generalize this.
That sounds like a great feature request.
Yeah, today we have 4, right, default templates.
Yes, 4
like
or 5.
Have, regular plots, like different, like smoothing plots with smoothing, confusion matrix, something else. It was like 4 as far as I remember. So we might have we might add a couple more templates, default templates, and.
Yeah, Dimo. Okay, I might have a simple show how our plots look like, if you are interested, guys and gals. I am actually in the process of preparing some presentations, so I've got something under. Okay, let's consider a repository where we are training the MNIST classification, MNIST classifier. This is a Keras classifier that just well trains on the MNIST data set and uses DVC Live to produce some metrics. This is the callback that we've been talking about before. And it actually, what the DVC Live produces is this these plots. Sorry, let me. This plots directory that contains two metrics files, and well, those are TSV files that well are containing metrics. And so we can see that in the particular step we get logged our accuracy. The same thing goes for the loss, and we can use DVC plots show, for example, to visualize the well, SV to visualize a single plot for our accuracy. Well, as we can see, in case of the version that we have on our workspace, the longer we train it, our misclassifier is better, which, well, sounds nice. And but well, what's Dmitry have been mentioning about the why we are using the Vega and templating, and its most powerful feature is the differentiation between different branches. So we can modify the command and use different branches, and in this case I just made the same minis training code with different optimizers, stochastic gradient descent, Adam, and Ada grad, and well, yeah, let's take a look what we can produce in case of 3 different branches. So I forgot to mention that besides the fact that we've been producing a linear plots, we have been also producing the confusion matrices for the classifiers, and using DVC metrics diff, DVC plots diff command, we can actually visualize all the defined plots. So what we can see here is that we have a plot part responsible for comparing different confusion matrices between different branches, and the same goes for the plots. We can see how our progresses in case of different branches, which were corresponding to different optimizers that we've been using. So we can easily see that when we are using Adam optimizer, it seems that not only the end result, the confusion matrix for the model looks the best. Also, we can see that it trains the fastest, right? Why we want to encourage users to store the data in the parsable form.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, and going back to the initial question, for some scenarios, even some specific scenarios, we can come up with a template like confusion matrix, right? And we might be able to find a way how to generalize this and generate nice plots.
Thank you all for being here today. It was a great meeting. You guys had awesome questions. Please, I'm going to put all the feedback form. It's in the chat. Also, you can join us on Discord if you have more questions, and in the forum too. We can answer all your questions there, and any feedback you have for features or things, that's a good place for you to go to enter everything. But please fill out the feedback form. We'd love to hear not only your feedback on the tools, but the feedback on the meetup and how these could be the most valuable to you. So we would love to get that and get you some swag. So thank you so much, and we will see you next month. We're probably going to be talking about CML and whatever feedback we get from this, what you guys want to hear. So we're looking forward to it. See you next time.
Yeah, thank you for joining, and thank you for the questions. And see you hopefully in the next month, because we are planning to do this like in a regular way, the meetups. So please join, and yeah, let's keep the discussion going, and we really like to hear your feedback. It helps us a lot in the future releases.